I want to talk to you today about keep the faith. God has a great plan for your life, something more than you've imagined. But that plan won't come to pass without opposition, things you don't understand, things that are not fair. God doesn't take us in a straight line. There will be detours, delays, even some dead ends. You come to a Red Sea, you face a Goliath. It seems like a setback, but really it's a setup. Feels like it's stopping your destiny. The fact is, it's leading you to your destiny. The test is to keep the faith. You'll be tempted to get discouraged, give up on your dreams. God, why did this happen? God wouldn't have allowed it if it was going to stop your purpose. His ways are not our ways. Faith is trusting when you don't understand. It's believing when all your circumstances say it's never going to work out. It's knowing that God is on the throne, that His plans for you are for good, that what He has purposed for your life will come to pass. That door that closed, you didn't like it, but God was ordering your steps. That person that walked away, it was painful, but it was a part of God's plan. You didn't need them for your destiny. That contract you lost, the child that's difficult to raise, that tough season at work, it may not be good now, but if you'll keep the faith, all things are going to work together for your good. God knows how to bring good out of a bad situation. You have to have a made-up mind that you're in it for the long haul. No matter what comes your way, you're going to keep believing, keep trusting, keep praising, keep dreaming, knowing that God has you in the palm of His hand, that He's working behind the scenes, that He has the final say. He said, no weapon formed against you will ever prosper. He said, what was meant for your harm, He would turn to your advantage. God being for you is more than the world being against you. Don't be moved by what you see. What you see is only temporary. When it all comes together, then it will make sense. And I've found the enemy is not fighting you for where you are. He's fighting you for where you're going. He knows there's greatness in you. He can sense you're a world changer, a giant killer, a history maker. If you weren't a threat to Him, He'd leave you alone. That's why He'll bring difficulties, bad breaks, things that are not fair. He's trying to get you discouraged, where you live doubting, thinking that God has forgotten about you. Don't fall into that trap. This is when you have to dig down deep and make this decision that you're going to keep the faith. You lost a loved one, but you kept the faith. You lost a position, you kept the faith. Your health went down. You had a setback in your finances, but you kept the faith. God sees you doing the right thing when it's hard. He sees you believing when you could be discouraged, praising through the pain, being good to people that have not been good to you. Your time is coming. Favor, healing, breakthroughs, victory is on the way. Nobody had more come against them than the Apostle Paul. He faced all kinds of betrayals, rejection, hardships. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he lists some of them. He said 3 times he was beaten with rods. This was for sharing his faith. 5 times he was given 39 lashes. Once he was stoned by an angry mob. He was falsely accused and put in prison. On top of that, when he first became a believer, on the road to Damascus, the church wouldn't accept him. They didn't think he really changed. For years, he was rejected by the leaders. At his trial, he said, nobody stood with me. All my friends, colleagues, people I was counting on, they weren't there. He had all these opportunities to be bitter, angry. But at the end of his life, sitting in a prison cell, he gives us the secret to living in victory. He said, I have kept the faith. I have finished my course. He was saying, people betrayed me. That didn't stop my destiny. Alexander did me wrong, but God will fight my battles. I got put in prison, but I'm not sitting around in self-pity. I can't travel and speak. They took away my freedom, but they didn't take away my pen. They can't keep my words from going out. He wrote much of the New Testament from a prison cell. What a great testimony to come to the end of life and be able to say with Paul, I have kept the faith. Went through a rough childhood, but I kept the faith. Didn't get that scholarship, but I kept the faith. Friend walked out on me. Boss got on my nerves. Went through cancer, but I kept the faith. Paul said in Acts 20, none of these things move me. You have to get to the point where you're not moved by disappointment, not moved by opposition, not moved by the medical report. Yes, it doesn't look good, but there's another report. God says He's restoring health back into me. You can stay in peace knowing that God has the final say. This is what I had to do. I lost my father, but I kept the faith. People said I couldn't minister, but I kept the faith. The experts said we'd never get the Compact Center, but we kept the faith. A company filed a lawsuit to try to keep us from moving in. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. Thoughts telling me, Joel, you're going to look like a fool. You've already told the people it was yours. What if you don't win the lawsuit? I was tempted to worry, live upset, but I made this decision. I'm going to keep the faith. We saw God step in and do what we couldn't do. You may be facing things now and you don't see how it's going to work out. Your finances, your health, a relationship. You could be stressed, lose your passion. If Paul were here today, he would tell you, keep the faith. God is still on the throne. He has a way even though you don't see a way. Life may have thrown you some curves, but it's not a surprise to God. The enemy didn't somehow overtake the plan for your life. He didn't get your steering wheel and now he's in control. God is still ordering your steps. He's with you in the trouble, in the sickness, in the loss. That's a critical time. You could get discouraged, start doubting. No, have a new perspective. God, I trust you. I know what you have purposed for my life will come to pass, that this setback is really setting me up for new levels of my destiny. As we celebrate my mother's 90th birthday today, we can look back and see how she has kept the faith. You don't live 90 years without hardships, disappointments, things you don't understand. As a little girl, she had polio. One of her legs is much smaller than the other. She couldn't run and play like the other children. She could have lived thinking she is at a disadvantage, a handicap. That never stopped my mother. She took the hand she had been dealt and made the most of it. My father was pastoring a church when my sister Lisa was born with a birth injury, something like cerebral palsy. Of course, my parents were devastated. They were tempted to get discouraged. God, why did this happen? This is not fair. But in those tough times, don't turn from your faith, turn to your faith. God is the one who will help you get through it. My father had been taught in seminary that the day of miracles was over. That was for back then when Jesus was alive on the earth. He went to a hotel downtown for a few days to be alone, and he read the scriptures like he was reading it for the first time. He saw how Jesus went around healing people and doing so much good. He realized there never was a day of miracles. There's a God of miracles, and He's still alive. He and my mother prayed over Lisa and asked God to heal her. They were told she would never be able to feed herself, never be able to walk, but little by little she got better and better. And today Lisa is perfectly healthy. But God may not have sent the storm, but He will use the storm to move you into your destiny. The storm will take you where you couldn't go on your own. That's why in difficulties, betrayals, things you don't understand, you have to keep the faith. God is up to something. It may be painful, it's not fair, but God is still in control. You can't see what He's doing right now. You don't know where that's leading you to. My father came back to his church with a new fire and a new passion. He started sharing about how God is a healer, how He wants us to live a life of victory. He thought everyone would be excited, but some of them didn't like it, didn't fit into their tradition. There was so much contention and discord that my parents had to leave. They'd poured their heart and soul into those people, never dreaming it would come to an end like that. My mother was 26 years old. She had friends she had known for years that never spoke to her again. My parents felt that sting of rejection. They could have been bitter, offended, but they trusted when it didn't make sense. They didn't understand why the door closed, why they would be pushed out. They were doing the right thing. The truth is, that storm wasn't the enemy, it was the hand of God moving them to a new level of their destiny. My parents went out, started Lakewood in an abandoned feed store. This little rundown building with 90 people. The critics said we'd never make it, but here we are today, 64 years later, and still going strong. But God knew my parents couldn't fulfill their purpose in that limited environment. They would have never left that church on their own. God had to force them out.
Mixing them down, tune after tune. DJ
Benjie.